or switch them off. Go with a trend or use a classic. Move ahead or take a step back. Use products that may affect the environment or help rebuild it. Decisions like these all have consequences. And we have the power to decide. We at Unioil know the value of our choices. Even in the tiniest possible way. Making the world a safer place to play in. A greener place to drive in. And a better place to live in. By providing better and cleaner fuels and utilizing renewable and sustainable energy. See? When we do small and meaningful acts for the planet, we help in rebuilding it. We help in keeping it. The road to the future might be uncertain, but we think we got a good head start. So come take this journey with Unioil. Together, we can begin by doing our care, doing our share. It may be a little, but it's a start. Unioil, doing our part.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Going Green, great for business and community. This event is hosted by the Manila Times. We are live, broadcasting live at the Manila Times and the Manila Times TV Facebook page. To give his opening remarks, I would like to call on the President and CEO of the Manila Times, Mr. Dante Clink Ang II.
Thank you, Ray. Secretary Manuel de Guzman, Vice Chairman and Executive Director of the Climate Change Commission, Mr. Edmund Alaga, President of the Electric Vehicles Association of the Philippines, Mr. Noel Soriano, Unioil Petroleum Philippines Incorporated Vice President, Mr. Edgar Sabidong, Chairman of the Philippine Green Building Council and Artalan Corporation Vice President. Good morning, and on behalf of the Manila Times, welcome to today's forum. The Times organizes these events to help focus the so-called national spotlight on issues that truly merit national discourse and attention. Our focus today is on the future, on how we can ensure that the country's economic recovery from the pandemic is not only robust, but also sustainable and environmentally responsible. That is what Going Green is all about, making sure that the progress we hope to realize will not sacrifice our well-being and that of future generations. After months of struggling with the coronavirus pandemic, we can sense that better times are ahead. In the Philippines, the number of cases are on a decline and mortality figures remain low. Some effective therapeutics have already been identified, even as scientists continue to learn more about COVID-19. And just the other day, we heard about a promising update about a vaccine being developed by Pfizer, that its product appears to be 90% effective and could be rolled out soon. Still, we should remain cautious. Pfizer's product is still in development, and as we have reported about the history of vaccines, making them entails a process that is complicated. Many vaccine candidates fail, even in the latter stages of their development. And even if Pfizer is successful, we still have to account for manufacturing time and distribution before they are offered here. I heard today on CNN, Dr. Anthony Fauci of the U.S. Center for Disease Control say that it might not be until April 2021 when most Americans are vaccinated, We can only assume that Filipinos will be next in line after them. We agree, though, that the news bolsters the cautious optimism of economic managers of the Philippines. In earlier forums of the Manila Times, Finance Secretary Carlos Dominguez said that the Philippines should see a robust rebound in 2021. He corroborated the earlier outlook given to the Times by NEDA and Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. And even without a vaccine, the assumption seems to be that the economy has to reopen even if COVID-19 persists. And so there appears to be agreement about the trajectory of our economy. But as we hope to highlight today, that there ought to be more attention to the quality of our recovery. From an environmental perspective, going back to old norms may not seem attractive or even viable. Like on the economic front, we hope to see a new normal in terms of our development policies and in the quality of our national progress. We believe it is timely to discuss these matters today. For instance, the Balik Provincia program of the government is largely driven by the need to decongest urban centers. But we should also have a green hue so that the execution of that program does not transfer the environmental problems from cities to provinces. Also, as policymakers weigh the environmental considerations of our energy mix, we hope that the topics today will be also heard. Recently, China announced that it plans to be carbon neutral by 2060, and the US hopes to do the same by 2050. As you know, the Philippines has a relatively small carbon footprint, and that should be preserved even as the country looks to turn the corner in a post-pandemic world and resume the pursuit of its development targets. How the country can do that may be the topic of our speakers today. So let me conclude so that we can get on with the program. But before I do so, let me express our appreciation to those who helped make this event possible. Thank you to our sponsors, Union Oil Petroleum Philippines Incorporated, Platinum Group Metals Corporation, Global Ferronickel Holdings Incorporation, and Hungry Workers. Thank you also to our partner organizations, Management Association of the Philippines, the Financial Executives of the Philippines, the British Chamber of Commerce, Philippines. Last but not least, thank you to our media partner, the Manila Times TV. Once again, thank you to you all, our participants watching this event on the Manila Times website and its social media live stream, and may you all have a productive day.
So our keynote speaker, let us all welcome Honorable Emmanuel Manny de Guzman, Secretary, Vice Chairperson, and Executive Director of the Climate Change Commission.
Ladies and gentlemen, the current COVID-19 pandemic and the prevailing climate emergency are both rooted in the world's current economic model of pursuing infinite growth at the expense of our planet. The paradox is that the pandemic has inspired radical action both from the public and private sector, while climate change so far has not. Actions to address climate change are happening at different speeds and scales around the world. Arguably, current climate change measures have taken little heed of the enormity and progression of the risks and vulnerabilities we are experiencing. Just a few days ago, Super Typhoon Rolly, the world's strongest storm this year, wreaked havoc in the country while we are still reeling from the impacts of Typhoon Quinta. The onslaught of these two powerful typhoons left numerous casualties and millions in destroyed crops and infrastructure in the Bicol region. However, as we speak, recovery and reconstruction efforts in the affected areas are put on hold as residents brace for another tropical storm that is projected to further intensify into a typhoon before making landfall. This is another shuddering warning. There is no more time to waste. We must immediately pursue the integration and coherence of private and public sector strategies for climate change adaptation and mitigation, disaster risk reduction, and sustainable development. Fortunately today, concerned with the vicious cycle of losses and grim prospects of climate change impacts and the Herculean tasks to arrest them, we are all gathered here to renew our commitment to work together toward addressing the greatest challenge of our generation. The government has been addressing the problem of climate change since its recognition by the world community in 1992, when the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change was established. We have actively participated and significantly contributed to the international climate negotiations under the UNFCCC process. In 2015, we led the Climate Vulnerable Forum, an international partnership of countries highly vulnerable to a warming planet, in successfully advocating for the inclusion of the 1.5 degrees Celsius goal in the final text of the Paris Agreement. 1.5 degrees Celsius is the global warming threshold for climate-vulnerable developing countries to survive and thrive. According to the Intergovernmental Panel of Climate Change, anything beyond 1.5, even half a degree of warming, will significantly worsen the risks of flooding, extreme heat, drought, and poverty in our local communities. It conveys that the world community does not have the luxury of time for to rein global warming at 1.5 degrees Celsius. Global net carbon dioxide emissions should be cut by 45% by 2030 from 2010 levels toward achieving a decarbonized global economy with net zero carbon emissions by mid-century. Reducing this amount of carbon emissions entails the exponential scaling up of renewable energy systems, energy efficiency, electrification of transport systems, and improvements of industrial and building efficiency on a global scale. Here at home, we have laid the policy landscape and enacted national laws to address the prevalence of climate risks to survive and thrive in the era of climate change. Despite our country's insignificant emissions of less than half of 1% of global emissions, the burden of prevalent poverty and the recurring economic losses from climate change impacts, we are resolved to pursue a low-carbon development pathway. We have our Clean Air Act, reducing black carbon, our Renewable Energy Act for promoting clean, sustainable energy, our Climate Change Act for strengthening climate governance, our People's Survival Fund Act for financing local adaptation, our National Protected Areas Act for ensuring ecosystems integrity, and our Green Jobs Act for promoting the creation of green jobs and fostering a just transition toward a green economy. We increased our excise tax on coal importation. We enacted our Energy Efficiency and Conservation Act for the effective and judicious use of energy. Last year, the Securities and Exchange Commission issued the Sustainability Reporting Guidelines for publicly listed companies. This will help us in the Commission measure and monitor the contributions of the private sector to the implementation of our nationally determined contributions. This year, the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas approved the Sustainable Finance Policy Framework requiring the integration of sustainability principles, including those covering environmental and social risk areas in the corporate governance and risk management frameworks. This will truly be a game changer in mobilizing finance towards climate investments in the country. Just last month, the Department of Energy announced that it will issue a moratorium on new coal-fired power plants. This policy is a welcome development that will advance rapidly the deployment of renewable energy and reducing the country's dependence on coal for energy generation in accordance with the President's pronouncement in his 2019 State of the Nation address. This policy will be articulated in the country's first nationally determined contributions under the Paris Agreement, which is now being developed and finalized through a whole of government and society approach. The NDC is the articulation of the country's investment strategy in pursuit of climate resilient and low carbon development. It defines also which transformational measures are conditional or contingent on the climate finance support of developed countries. The sooner we submit our NDC, the sooner we can unlock new sources of climate finance that could meaningfully reduce power costs in the country and end our reliance on imported fossil fuels. Ladies and gentlemen, there is a lot of collaborative work for the government and private business sector in ushering a paradigm shift toward low carbon and climate resilient development. In the past, we have been hindered by the mistaken assumption that climate actions are inevitably costly to those that pursue them. Such thinking only empowers those who stand to benefit from delay and inaction by propounding the notion that climate action conflicts with critical economic development and public welfare priorities. We now know that reality is very much different. What is good for the planet is good for the business. Years of technological and policy innovation have created a completely new playing field for investments. Far from slowing down the advance of growth, development, and social welfare, climate action can produce socially beneficial outcomes. Climate solutions are now often cheaper and provide greater economic returns than higher carbon alternatives. We may call them climate actions, but they are really just smart policies and sound investments with climate benefits as an added bonus. Because of this, more and more companies and institutions are responding to the global imperative and consumer demand to go green. They recognize that integrating sustainability and green practices into their operations is crucial in ensuring the longevity and profitability of their businesses. Expect this trend to continue in the many years to come across all sectors and industries, from infrastructure, food supply, supply chains, urban services, logistics, to the energy sector. This is a global transformation process that is already underway, and we cannot afford to be left behind. The private sector, as the engine of the country's economic growth, plays a critical role in this green energy revolution. I count on all of you to take climate ambition to new heights today and pave the way for more leadership and innovative climate actions. Thank you and mabuhay.
Our next speaker is the founding member of the ASEAN Federation of Electric and Hybrid Vehicles Association to ASEAN countries. Let's all welcome our next speaker, Mr. Edmund Araga, President of the Electric Vehicle Association of the Philippines.
First and foremost, I would like to give you a brief background of our association. It started in 2008, wherein various e-players spearheaded by Philippine Utility Vehicle Association decided to band together and form this association. And our mission is to promote electric vehicles used throughout the entire archipelago. And with this, these suppliers on the automotive sector find a way to create an association that we see the future, that the future of the automotive is into electric. EV's trend is going up. China dominates this aspect, wherein there were more Chinese manufacturers on dealing with EVs and such, followed by other countries. And with this, they were able to make a projection on how they can approach on this market, that in the next 5 to 10 years to come, EV industry worldwide will put a mark in the auto sector. So how the automotive supply chains will change, that is given, because this would give new job creations, this will give new innovations, and this would give new sustainability in promoting a more eco-friendly vehicle. Will it be a boon or a bane for us? It depends on how our actions now, from this moment and beyond. So as of the moment, we are looking at finding the incentives that would somehow elevate the industry as being enjoyed by other countries, wherein subsidies, incentives were being given to them, so as to be appreciated by the consumers, and so as to see the benefits of the industry. Next slide, please. Well, in terms of energy security, top five importation in our country today is importation of the crude. So millions of barrels are being imported yearly, and this has to be addressed. And part of it, major part of consumers of the oil importations is on the transport sector. Why EVs in the Philippines? We started with promoting via approach on e-jeepneys and the e-tricycles, wherein we have to let the public know that what would be the benefits of using the EVs. We come up with a more systematic approach. We come up building the infrastructure. We come up with charging stations at place, so as they can recognize the systematic point of using the electric vehicles. In terms of health, during the pandemic situation, we see the beauty of the lockdowns, wherein air pollution was limited, and there were only a few vehicles that are being used on the roads, and EVs are one of those being used specifically for our frontliners, shuttling them from their place to their hospitals. And it addressed the in terms of health and noise pollution. Imagine there were no noise while using on the EVs. It addressed the air pollution because it doesn't emit any gas at all. Next slide, please. So the simplicity of an electric vehicle compared to an ICE or internal combustion engine is big. Like, for instance, there are only about 18 moving parts for the EVs compared to more than 2,000 moving parts of the ICEs. So it's really a game changer that on the supply side of things, we make it more simpler in using the electric vehicles. So what else do we have the advantage of in the Philippines? We have abundant nickel and cobalt reserves and supplies. And on this, we could be able to provide and produce batteries. The only thing that makes it more sensible enough is produce and not process it here and build batteries, address the cost of the unit. In addressing this, half of the cost of the units of the EVs are partly on batteries. And if we're going to be able to produce or process the mineral ores that we ship, that we export outside of the country, we will be able to pull through with additional costs, and it more sensible enough in using it in our market. And as mentioned earlier, DOE completes distribution of 3,000 e-trikes with Asian Development Bank, wherein they may use it for distributed to the local government units. selected government units in Calabarzon area and others. And this is very useful in their operations, addressing concerns on their specifically on their frontliners and their administration usage. And also there are some like in Pasig, they were able to use it as for public students as well in using these units. Next slide, please. There is also another project wherein Pasig was able to get a grant from one manufacturer of 10 units, e-trike units as logistics, addressing the concerns on, together with the collaboration of United Nations Environment Program, a program wherein promoting on the logistics side of things on addressing this climate change. And they are now falling through since. So this is one part that makes it more viable on using e-vehicles. Next slide, please. And then, as mentioned by Sir Ray, we are part of the technical committee under Senate Bill 1382 of Senator Gatchalian on the Electric Vehicles and Charging Stations Act, wherein we identified the roles of different government agencies. We were able to address the fiscal and non-fiscal incentives that are needed in the market and in the industry, and how to build the demand generation and the industry development infrastructures in particular to have continuous and supply chain and sustaining it for a better mode of transportation. Next slide, please. We are also part of uh, uh, building the draft or the draft administrative order of LTO under electric vehicle guidelines and regulations in terms of classifying it and its operations and how it is being demanded for the recording and the registration of each and every e-vehicles that is being used on the road. We have to classify which units or models that are very useful and limited to a certain areas that can be used of, and addressing the issues of recording. And somehow we would know of what would be the benefits if what would be the repercussions if there are some safety guidelines or there were some accidents that happen. Next slide, please. Well, in terms of these perspectives, as an EV and parts manufacturer, here are the perspectives that we were able to address with. There were few e-trikes and Egypt local manufacturers providing investments beyond the production to enable market adoption of the vehicles. We already provided the proof of concept in each and every location, in each and every local government units. And we have to push these local government units to elevate it to the next level. And with this, we were able to address smart and optimized designs and system. There's a stop and shop, and there is terminal stations at place, and they have a certain area of concern that they have to pass through, and limited to as such. We address those, but we were not yet being simply we feel that we are still taken for granted. We can go but anywhere. Where is the market and the financing support? These local manufacturers are asking for financing support, wherein hoping that commercial banks would be more open on letting the consumers buy the units from the local manufacturers and use it. And as of the moment, there are only a few. In fact, can be countable to our fingers of who were able to give financing assistance to such manufacturers. Local manufacturing incentives are needed to compete with the ICE and imported EVs. As of the moment, the only thing that we have gained is the excise tax. EVs are free from excise tax. And we are clamoring for more incentives for us to build, to reach its parity with the ICEs. And another is that our counter association collaborator, which is PNI, Philippine Nickel Industry Association, was able to talk with CIAPS PBA, our counterpart in China, and looking for ways on how they can build modular manufacturing the battery cells here. And so as they need to invest on battery cell manufacturing under the right policy, climate, and incentives and demands. So we're trying to build a roadmap first before we will able to push through on this collaboration. So as we could bring together these two association groups in offering it to the market, local market, I mean. Next slide, please. A couple of more progressive transport cooperatives have adopted EVs, but only after EV supplier provided financing support. So there are some queries. Why should I adopt? Do we have to save Mother Earth on building on using electric vehicles instead of an ICE fleet operations? Will it make more business sense? Actually, the thing is that if only the market would better understand the benefits of using the electric vehicles, not only on saving Mother Earth, not only on addressing concerns on the viability. Yes, as mentioned earlier, there are only few items that are, there are only few movable parts that has to be replaced in times of repairing. And it's more less costly than compared to an ICE. That thing is one thing that a fleet operator should consider. Another is the only thing that deals with is the upfront cost of the units. And after that upfront cost, they would not have to look into how is the cost of the diesel fluctuating from time to time, instead of them charging it to an power grid. If they have some solar panels that supported for the powers, that would be more better, and it would give them a better benefits. An e-trike costing 3 times a conventional tricycle should return 3 times the net revenue to be worth it. As mentioned, the cost of the e-vehicles is merely on batteries. And if we address producing the batteries locally, we would be able to see the beauty of how effective it was if you're going to buy an electric vehicle and an affordable battery supply. So what are opportunities and incentives? We are dealing with a more systematic way of approach on using on a fleet operations. AFCS, automated fare collection system, camera, CCTVs inside each and every e-vehicles for the safety of the commuters. More systematic wherein they won't stop at any areas that the driver or the commuter would want to. There are specific areas that they have to stop. Those are the things that we have to look for. And another is that in spite of how these drivers on a personal usage would be able to plan their travel on a daily basis, like how many kilometers do you use it. The only thing that makes it more sensible enough to this inquiries on the EVs is what is the range distance of your car. And if you're going to make a plan, you would know of on how what is the capacity of your cars. So those are the things that we have to do, and you would have cost savings on your daily needs. Next slide, please. So only one active EV charging operator from a couple of years back. Actually, one speaker of ours later on, Sir Noel Soriano, our member of the association is one of the private sector who was able to establish a charging station in their gas station. And I, for one, benefit from it because I'm using an EVs and I charge it for free. So if people would really know that if you can go to a certain gas station and charge your e-cars there for free, why not? But this one, until the regulations will be implemented, there should be a cost. But that's the difference. The nice thing about of having it establish it first and be an innovator on placing the charging pads, addressing that range distance anxiety of the users. What government support and incentives? That's why EVAP is working with technical committee, as technical committee of BPS under TC 89, under DTI, and we are technical advisor of Senate Bills 1382 and the House Bill of the in the Congress, so that we just need this approval to get the nod of the fiscal and non-fiscal incentives and feel the support of the government. Because for one, we already established a support to the government, and now we are looking for a more collaborative approach on hand-in-hand working with the market. Thank you very much and hope you have a pleasant day.
Our next speaker, let's all welcome Mr. Noel Soriano.
A little bit about UniOil. UniOil is the fourth biggest oil company in the Philippines. No? UniOil is already 54 years in the country, being founded in 1966. No? We bring to the market European grade Euro 5 fuels. No? Something that is higher than the Philippine standard Euro 4. No? So we offer this for the same price or even sometimes marginally cheaper than our competitors, so that we would like to offer this to Filipinos to do their share in also going green, no? Without having to spend more money. No? UniOil is continuously growing. No? Primarily, we are located in Luzon, but soon to be opening our doors to the markets of Visayas, Mindanao, hopefully before the end of the year. No? Why do we, the basic premise of how UniOil does its business is an advocacy on the environment. We feel very, very strongly about this. No? And this is actually predicated, the activities and the initiatives that we do are predicated on a belief that really climate change and the environmental hazards are real. No? These are not just invisible threats that is a figment of imagination. We know that it is here. It is here in a clear and present danger, and it's starting to be less invisible. We can see signs of environmental degradation, weather being more unpredictable and more disastrous to our lives. No? And we feel that it will take not just one company, not just one individual to turn it around. We need to band together, no? As private and government, to help one another to save our future. So we would like actually, as a Doing Our Part campaign, we enjoin our customers and the Filipino people to do their part now, not tomorrow, but now, and help us. And together, we hopefully can make a difference through our small everyday actions and decisions. As simple as choosing a cleaner fuel for our vehicles of today, and maybe considering an electric vehicle for your future. Euro 5 is something that we bring to the market. This is beyond the Philippine requirement of Euro 4. We believe that bringing European quality Euro 5 to our market is to make Filipinos know that the better fuel is investing in a better future. In 2016, UniOil, out of its own initiative, launched a network of more than 50 air quality monitoring stations in key cities nationwide. This is part of our advocacy in helping educate the Filipinos to tell them that the risk of pollution is not an invisible and a remote threat. It is already in the shores of the Philippines. No? In 2015, the DENR, Environmental Management Bureau, released a study. Unbeknownst to many, the study says that to a limit of the 90 parts per million total particulate matter in the environment, NCR and Metro Manila is already at 120 parts per million levels. No? This is more than 30% exceeding World Health standards. No? And so our contribution is to make people see the scores. These are now available online, free for access to the public. This is our public service. No? People can see hourly readings in their key cities, how bad the air quality is. It is actually aligned with the United States Environmental Protection Agency, indicating a consumer-friendly way of telling you whether the air that you breathe and that your children are exposed to are healthy, when it's green, when it's moderate or unhealthy for sensitive groups, can trigger already, for example, asthma or lung problems. No? And when it is unhealthy, it already tells us that we might want to consider relocating our relatives or family members that are very sensitive. No? Please join us. Anybody who might be interested to join this network. It's not a business proposition. It is really a public advocacy. No? Join our network of providing free public service to this one. It's just like a weather report. No? How healthy would it be for people to know, to check every day, oh, I'm going to Davao, I'm going to Baguio. What is the, I'm going to Baguio, for example, or Tagaytay to have a rest and recreation. Is the weather, is the air in the area where we want to rest and recuperate healthy and clean? No? So this is a call to action, not just for the public, for the private, but also for the government to get alarmed when the rising levels of hazardous air is already starting to aggregate, no, and accumulate in certain cities. Pollution is part of industrialization. Pollution comes when you have progress. Pollution comes when you consume more transportation. And so therefore, we have to be concerned that pollution will be coming and will be taking its toll on our health. Because of our launch of cleaner fuels, Euro 5 is 5 times cleaner, less sulfur, and our advocacy for air quality information. In 2017, UniOil was awarded as a Clean Air Champion by one of our respected NGOs, the Clean Air Philippines. No? And we are thankful for this recognition, and this one inspires us to do something more for the environment. In 2017, we launched our first electric vehicle charging station in Quezon City. This made UniOil the first multi-energy service station in the Philippines. Multi-energy because we not only refuel liquid fuels, but now electric energy. In 2018, we opened our second electric vehicle charging station located in EDSA Guadalupe, Makati. We are now ready to receive and encourage and service electric vehicles that are Japanese, European, American, no? At just now, without waiting too much time, because it's now a fast charging station, no? Mr. Araga is somebody that has tested already and I think has benefited. And this is something, is again a public service because we do not charge. No? We do not charge for recharging. No? This is our share to help encourage people to go into EV cars. Crazy, no? Some people say Unioil is crazy, no? Because electric vehicle and alternative energy are renewable energy. These are not fossil fuels. These are not petroleum-based. And they're saying that alternative energy is the single biggest threat to the profitability and future of the oil industry. It is actually an antithesis to our business. And yet, Unioil is the first to embrace it. Why? Because it's good for humanity, it's good for the environment. Instead of resisting it, let us be part of this change. It's a change, it's a step change for the good. It's not for our generation, it's for our children and our grandchildren. This is an investment to our future, to our sustainable business. Let's go with the change and be part of the change. I guess let me end with sharing with you that we are doing our part to preserve the environment, and it is really investing in a sustainable future for our children and also our business. Thank you very much for this opportunity, and have a nice day.
Let's all welcome our next speaker, Chairman of the Philippine Green Building Council and Vice President of the Technical Services Department, Chief Sustainability Officer of Artalan Corporation, Mr. Edgar Sabido.
Good morning to everyone. It's always a pleasure to be able to take part in endeavors such as this. I thank Manila Times for the opportunity. Likewise, I'd like to say first, thank you to Ray and also to our Honorable Secretary de Guzman, to my co-speakers, Edmund and Noel. I think the sequence is perfect because after talking about climate change and then moving on to transportation on electric vehicles, Noel spoke about the industry in terms of how the oil business comes to the fore. So I'm left with the bigger contributor to global warming, which is buildings. I'd like to share with you my presentation. I hope this works well. Can you see on the screen?
Yes, we can see.
Let me just, right. I guess let me go back from the beginning because I was trying to test my time. Okay. So thank you. Going green, great for business and the community. What can one green building do? Of course, not much, we say. But one green building can inspire another and build on another and multiply. Hopefully it can gather public support, make the local government follow, and then our community can go green, and then the environment can be better. A green building features energy and water efficiency, use of green materials, it manages its waste and control emission, takes care of transportation, land use and ecology, and it manages the building. For the Verde rating system, it even takes on culture and heritage preservation. I'd like to zero in on indoor air quality because this is relevant to our pandemic times nowadays. A green building has visual comfort, thermal comfort, good indoor air quality for tenants and dwellers. It has microbial contamination prevention and green materials for cleaning. So the Artaland way of designing green building takes a lot of time, effort, dedication, selection of consultants and contractors, this a bit of an expertise that are needed. We're a bit fortunate with Artalan that we're able to start the company developing nothing but green and sustainable buildings. We started with area residences. We were totally unknown at the time, 11, 12 years ago. And then we moved on to build ACPT, or the Artalan Century Pacific Tower in BGC. Currently, we're wrapping up phase 1 of the Cebu Exchange at IT Park. We're also doing the Savia Financial in Arca South, and then our Sedina Park community developments in Laguna. So our buildings are not only rated or certified, but we're working to make them quadruple certified under the LEED rating system, the local Verde rating system of the Philippine Green Building Council, the EDS, Excellence in Design for Greener Efficiencies, and of course, with the pandemic now, the WELL certification for the health and wellness of the tenants of the buildings. There are a lot of challenges in building green. Starting with construction, you need to have your indoor air quality, your erosion sedimentation control, and construction waste. So we teach people and the workers proper segregation of waste, selections of materials for reuse and recycling. We use pavers or from excess concrete, and even if you take note of the photo, even our Christmas parties are utilizing recycled materials, so people will get appreciation that there's really not everything should be dumped in the landfill. So we teach them proper segregation of their waste. To be able to sell green on the business part, you need a lot of spreading of the green awareness. Starting as an unknown developer, people were not aware fully what green building is. There are a lot of expectations and perceptions about green, if it's painted green, if it's full of landscaping. So we need to educate them. We educate our sellers, we educate the clients, because their behavior and expectations should also be studied. Actual data helps. For example, our green building, where we have tenants that used to pay 20,000-30,000 pesos on electricity bill, are amazed that they only pay more than half or less than half. So it's one of those benefits. And of course, the water bill is likewise reduced significantly. To sell green, there's also the use of technology, like your audio-visual presentations, and we do have virtual realities in our galleries. You also need to strengthen on the adaptability of the building to the present new normal. During the pandemic, we were able to convert portions of our green building into an immediate facility for our housekeeping, our maintenance, our security, because we do have the facility within. And the most important thing is that we sell green building for the future of our children. So I thank Noel for also mentioning that this is not just about the present, but more of thinking about the future of our children. We're pushing for green because in times of pandemic, we're able to make the equation between what a green building has in terms of respect for the environment. If we remember how the pandemic started, whether this is strongly proven by scientists or not, when we disrupt our ecology, of course, the microorganisms that live within the animal, they get displaced. They come down to the communities, they get eaten, and then the virus starts to spread. So it's important for us to understand a green building respects ecology. It minimizes the use of wood. It discourages deforestation. It is energy and water efficient. It saves a significant amount of water. And it values the high standards of health, hygiene, and good indoor air quality. A green building likewise features that are easily transformed to health and safety facilities in case of a pandemic. We at the Green Building Council do a lot of these awareness spread trainings, collaborations. What we dream about is that we get our local government units as well to mandate that all buildings will be turned green. In fact, Artaland, we signed up on the climate group, becoming the first country in Southeast Asia to be able to commit that all the buildings that we will develop will be net zero by 2030, moving forward to help the environment achieve the 1.5 degrees centigrade control of temperature by 2050. So we do a lot of talks. We use AVRs for the guest virtual realities. We talk to symposium. We talk to mayors, especially when we were in Cebu, which we still are, to convince the local heads and LGU Office of Building Officials to be able to mandate, if not now, in the near future, that all buildings will be turned green. I take the best example of Mandaue in Cebu, because it's already mandated, so all buildings are turning to be green. You also sell the design, the quality, and the comfort of a green building. It's not only that it's green, but also it has to be comfortable. The little things that we do for the environment, for the earth. We make pledges, we ask them for their commitment to reduce, reuse, and recycle, and we engage little children in helping spread community engagement. So we used to say that our environment does not need us. We need our environment. But now things have changed. Our environment needs our help. If you realize that a small act can make a whole lot of a difference, thank you and have a pleasant day.
Okay, with that, now we close this insightful event. Thank you to our speakers. So, Mr. Edmund Araga, President of the EVAP, Mr. Noel Soriano of Unioil Petroleum Philippines, and Mr. Edgar Sabidong, Chairman of the Philippine Green Building Council and Vice President of Artelan Corporation. It has been really insightful. So after this event, EV truly has a promise as well as green buildings. Not only we will contribute to saving our planet, it also makes sense for companies and even individuals to adopt green. So thank you everyone for listening.